Hey, this is Charlie.
And this is Brit.
From Blackberry Smoke. You're listening to Walking the Floor.
I'm walking the floor over you.
Walking the floor.
I'm walking the floor. Walking the floor over you.
Hola, senors and senoritas. This is Chris Shiflett, and you are listening to another edition of your favorite podcast, Walking the Floor. Yes, it's a gray, cold day in Manchester. I'm looking out the window of my hotel, Malmaison, out at the street, people walking around. We are deep in the middle of my UK Euro tour, playing tonight in Manchester. But by the time you hear this, I'll be somewhere in Scandinavia. I'm not even sure where. So far, we've done Dublin. Crazy Saturday night in Dublin to kick the tour off. Brighton was awesome. London was awesome. Amps blowing up at soundcheck. Multiple amps blowing up at soundcheck. Up to about 15 minutes before we played. I don't even think we had a bass amp. Our tour manager had to go on Facebook and beg somebody to bring one down. It was wild, a little stressful, but we got through it, and that show was fantastic. Then we were on to Bristol, where I've never been in my life, I don't think, in Bristol, and what a cool town that is. Somebody described it as the San Francisco of England. So I don't know if that's true, but it had that vibe. It was cool. Had a little arty feel to the downtown. And then back down to London for me yesterday while the boys went up to Manchester, and I did a bunch of promo. We are promoing the fuck out of this tour. Been working hard, baby. Spreading the word, bringing the love to the United Kingdom. Anyway, so like I said, we got Manchester tonight, and then Glasgow, Edinburgh, and then Oslo, Copenhagen, and Stockholm left to do, and then we'll be heading home. But this thing has been an insane, incredible, good time. Best solo tour I have ever done in my life, hands down, for sure. Anywho, let's pay some bills. And before we pay some bills, I do want to remind everybody out there listening that my new record coming out in the middle of June is available now for pre-order in the iTunes store or Amazon, or you can go to my website and get like bundles of various things, bandanas, vinyl, t-shirts, whatever you need, man, it's up there. So get on over to chrisshiflettmusic.com and get a pre-order bundle. It's gonna be a good time. Okay, let's talk about D'Addario, because of course support for Walking the Floor comes from D'Addario, who are a fine maker of USA-made instrument strings and musical accessories. I play them myself, because I want the best. I want D'Addario. And they're committed to sustainability through the playback program, recycling over 1 million used instrument strings. For more info on the playback program, please visit playback.daddario.com. And while you're at it, check out Zounds.com. That's Zounds with 2 Z's.com. Because over at Zounds, every order of gear that you get for $599 and above is eligible for their exclusive 12-part payment plan with no interest charge ever, and you just pay that first monthly installment and your gear ships immediately. Zounds.com. All right, let's get to today's interview. Okay, so today's interview is with Charlie and Brit from Blackberry Smoke, Atlanta's one and only Blackberry Smoke, one of my favorite rock and roll bands out there right now. I have to tell you the backstory of how this all came together. So, when was it? Like the end of last year, I got a call from my booking agent saying, hey, you just got offered a bunch of Blackberry Smoke gigs. And I was like, whoa, I don't have a band together. I didn't think I was going to be touring this far out in advance of my record coming out. So I called some musician friends of mine and threw a band together because I knew I could not pass up touring with Blackberry Smoke. And as soon as I confirmed the first dates they offered me, I got a call the next day from my booking agent going, they offer you some more dates. And And so I took those two. So we had 2 legs of Blackberry Smoke dates, and I had never met them. I don't know why I got offered the shows, but I knew I couldn't turn it down. And there's always a little trepidation going into a tour when you're on somebody else's tour supporting them, and you've never met anybody, and you don't know anybody on their crew, and you don't know anybody in the band. And we showed up in where the hell was that first show? Oxford, Mississippi. And immediately, everybody on their crew was as nice and welcoming and hospitable as could be. And the boys were up on stage, I think even maybe sound checking already at that point. And Charlie came over to me as soon as he was done, just stuck his hand out and was like, "Hey man, nice to meet you. Come check this out." And we walked over to his guitar boats and looked at all his beautiful vintage guitars. And I am not exaggerating when I tell you this. Blackberry Smoke, the entire band and their entire crew, are some of the nicest folks I have ever had the privilege of spending time on the road with. They really walk it like they talk it, and they made us feel right at home from the first gig to the last gig. And at some point, maybe even then, that first time that I met Charlie, I think I asked him, "Hey man, I'd love to interview you for my podcast." And he was like, "Totally." So when we were getting near the end of that run, I think we were down in San Diego, sat down in his hotel room with me and him and Brit and had this wonderful conversation. So check this out. This is Charlie and Brit from Blackberry Smoke on Walking the Floor. Now listen, I wrote these questions out this morning, Mr. Brit, when I thought I was only interviewing Charlie. So feel free to call foul if it's too guitar heavy, which it probably will be.
It will be. He knows.
We can talk about like tambourines or like the circumference of your drums or what. I'm not a drummer. I don't know drummer stuff.
Just round shiny things on a guitar.
Whatever you want to talk about.
I just want you to know that I was getting on the Midway ship with a guided tour for a 101-year-old retired man, and then I got the call.
Yeah.
We're doing an interview down here, so
You're a consummate professional,
I was
my
in
friend. I love
San
it.
Diego, and I just rode back.
Nice. Well, it's
On
important.
time.
It's good that you're here because I am getting into. I will get into stuff that, you just jump in wherever you
You need
want.
me to move stuff or lift stuff? Okay, right.
You're just bigger and stronger than me and Charlie, man. Come on.
Sure. Teamwork.
Normally in these interviews, I wait until a little deeper into it to jump into gear talk. But because, Charlie, you have what I would consider maybe the most impressive collection of vintage guitars and whatnot I've ever seen anybody take out on the road.
Oh.
Normally people leave that shit back at home.
Right.
But you're a road warrior with it. It's rad. It's great to see. So I wanted to talk a little bit about that and maybe talk about, let's just do a little gear talk. And we can talk drums too. We can throw that in here. But let's talk about your guitars.
Okay.
It's probably the first thing that jumped out at me when we
Well,
met
I think
up with you guys.
that's my fault because when I shook hands with you, I was like, "Hey, come here with me and look at." I don't know why I did that. I'm sorry.
That's right. That was the first thing
Yeah.
that we did was a little tour of your vault.
I'm sure you thought that there was probably something wrong with me.
Or that you were going
right
to
off
give him
the
one,
bat.
is what he thought.
Yes, exactly. I thought as a show of like, welcome to the tour.
Right.
Take this 58 Les Paul.
Yeah.
Thought it was going to be that kind of thing.
Oh, that one's
It hasn't
old.
happened
I don't
yet.
want that. You have
Yeah.
anything newer?
That's right.
All right, I'll shut up.
Yeah. Well,
How did you get into collecting vintage gear like that?
it started when it was really I inadvertently got into it. I was just out of high school in Atlanta, and I met a guy in a music store that sort of like what we're talking about when I met you. I shook his hand and was introduced, and he goes, "Hey, you need this guitar." And he took me over to this 1956 Les Paul Jr. That was just old and beat up, and it was refinished black, and it had a story behind it. It belonged to the guitar player for the Georgia Satellites, and it was on consignment for sale. Anyway, it was $600, I think, or $650, which was all the money in the world to me.
What was that in like 1962 or
Yeah,
something?
exactly.
When was that guitar? $650, man.
It was actually 1992. Anyway, I bought it. And I kind of was pressured into it. I didn't have enough money to buy it, but I did. And anyway, that started the love affair or the obsession.
It's an expensive habit. Like, were you one of those people? And I asked this out of genuine curiosity because when I was growing up, I pretty much had one guitar, and I just didn't have that mindset of like trading up.
Yeah.
You know, that a lot of that, there's, you know, you meet some of these folks, and maybe you were one of them, that like were always kind of like grinding on like, you know, I got this thing and I'm going to trade it with this and this, and I'm going to get this other, you know what I mean? Like I never had that, you know, and I regret it, because I was sort of, once I got to a point, when I joined the Foo Fighters, I only had 2 guitars, and one of them had a busted headstock. So then like, but in that band, I had to have a few guitars, you know, you had all these changes and stuff. So
right.
And I went and I started. I bought a few guitars that were just new or pretty new. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I can't buy one. I can't afford one of those old guitars, and I don't want to risk taking it out on the road. So like, how did you develop that or get into that mindset, or how did you know to do that, I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, at first, I mean, when I bought that guitar, and then pretty quickly after that, I met another guy who was like, oh, I've also got this for sale. It's a 72 Telecaster. Oh, and another guy's like, oh, and I've also got this Les Paul Special. So it was a little overwhelming at first. And then I kept that black guitar, which I still have. Nice. I've had it since then, since 93 or so, 92, 93. But I started to trade and swap and sell and buy those other guitars, because that's all I could do. If I saw another one I wanted, I was like, well, I don't have the money, so I got to sell this one to buy that one. But then if you do that, then I got all this regret, because and Brit's got the same thing with automobiles, with old hot rods, where he's like, oh, I wish I had never sold that thing because it was better than this thing.
I had to loan Charlie money to buy a guitar, but
but then when you build a big enough stable of stuff, I don't know, then there's some you can keep. And my wife, I look at it this way. A lot of guitar players know what I'm talking about, that, you know, a lot of guitar collectors, that is, guitars come and they go directly under the bed or into the closet. They don't get talked about. Right. They're just, sorry guys, I'm not trying to blow a whistle on anyone, but
see, in my case, I have them sent directly to our studio.
Exactly.
They don't come through the house.
Everybody's got their their way of doing it.
Yeah.
But then, you know, now, and it's tough because I'm a hoarder, I've realized I have a problem. But if I sell one occasionally, that's the slate wiper. Like, we're good.
Right.
Look at this.
Yeah.
I just made.
Now I can buy 5 more.
I made $200. Look at that. Look at there.
Strong. And what are those? What's the amp that you play through that looks like a Marshall? What's it? Geronimo?
Germino.
Germino.
Greg Germino.
What's that? Where that? I have a Friedman.
Yeah.
A bunch of Friedmans myself, which is probably a kind of a
similar thing.
Yeah.
I met Greg Germino. He's a one-man operation in Graham, North Carolina, and I was playing orange amps on the road, and I had some old Marshalls at home, and the old Marshalls are tricky. You have to get them worked on a lot on the road. I do anyway.
Yeah.
They go down a lot.
They're temperamental.
They sound great, but they're temperamental. Anyway, my buddy Keith Nelson from Buck Cherry, the band, I've known him for a long time. He's like, what are you playing, man? And I was like, yeah, these orange amps. He's like, yeah, no. What I want you to do is check out this Plexi clone made by this guy in North Carolina, and they're absolutely tanks, and they sound exactly the way they should. Here's his number. So I called him, and he's like, I'm going to bring one to your show in Raleigh and let you take it with you. And that was it. Been playing it ever since. Yeah. And he is one of the nicest guys. He's not a weirdo. I mean, they're in the guitar and amp business. There's a lot of weirdos.
Sure. I've noticed.
He's fantastic. And they never let you down.
And so you collect old cars? Is that what I'm to understand? You're the hot rod guy in the band? Because that's a knowledge base I truly wish I had. And I don't even know where to begin, because I love old cars, but I tried buying one a few years ago, and I bought like the dumbest one. It was terrible. And then I just sat there for a little while, and I sold it.
Yeah,
I'm going to come to you next time for advice.
Sure. I mean, I only know what I've learned the hard way, really. I know what I like is Chevrolets. My dad had a 62 Vet, brand new, that he bought in 62. So when we were we grew up around that car, and thought we would never get to drive it.
My tour van's a 2019 Chevy Express, bro. If you ever want to take it for a spin.
That has no resale value, but thanks. But that has a better air conditioner probably. But no, I really got into trucks lately. The old C10 truck from 60 to 68. And
okay, I was just having this conversation with Shannon, my guitar tech. He is a Ford guy, and he's like, because we're talking about, I want to get an old truck.
Yeah.
He said, you need a 67 Ford Ranger, I think,
Yeah,
or whatever
right.
it was. And I was like, but I just got a Chevy, like a new Chevy Silverado. So I was thinking, well, maybe I'll get like an old Chevy pickup truck. And so I was looking at those. Which one's better and why?
If you want it to run, get a Chevy. But listen, I have a new Ford truck. I think their newer trucks are great, but I don't know. I'm just not hooked on old Fords. I've had a T-Bucket, but other than that, I'm pretty much a Chevy guy all the way. Yeah, I don't know.
How long has Blackberry Smoke been a band?
19 years.
19 years. That's so wild, because I feel like I really only heard about you guys in like a few years ago.
That's funny because I heard of the Foo Fighters in '94.
Hey, that was before my time, man.
Thanks a lot.
No, but this is very curious to me. I'm always fascinated by bands that have this long history, and then there's a point where all of a sudden it pops up and it grows into more of a global thing, and maybe it's just me being out of the loop or whatever. But it's strange to me when a band that's totally in my wheelhouse musically, that I discover has like a gazillion records that I never heard of. You know what I mean? And I was honestly surprised when I went back after I heard about you guys a few years ago, and I don't remember which album that was. Maybe it was a couple records ago.
Yeah.
Whatever you were doing. So I'm curious about those early days. Like, how did you guys become a band? What were y'all doing before that? And also, how did you build it in those? That's a long time to be a band.
Yeah.
Slogging it out.
Well, you don't have our book then.
I don't have the book.
We don't have one, but all this will be in it.
Yeah,
of course. This is the book, man. This is the audio book.
Right.
Yeah.
Charlie and myself and my brother, we played together before this band and recorded a record on Universal, and it was a hard, weird
What was the
experience.
band called?
Buffalo Nickel.
Yeah.
We had a different singer. It was his band, really. It was his record deal.
Right.
He wrote some songs, and he got interest from the people at Universal at the time, and we were all buddies, and so he's like, will you be my band? So that's what we did. We went and made this record, and we never toured. We only played a few shows, really. It was really it was very confusing, but I personally didn't know any different at the time.
Right.
I had never been on tour. I only played in cover bands, really.
Really?
And a few local Atlanta bands that we were writing songs and things, but it's pretty new experience. And then it pretty quickly we realized, okay, well, we don't really feel the same about how this is supposed to work. We don't feel like we should be this guy's band. This is awkward. It was, I don't know, it's hard to explain. It just didn't feel right.
It was a cool experience, but it wasn't, well, we just were kind of like underwhelmed maybe, or more like, let's do something different,
Right.
We like what we're doing together, or are comfortable with each other, and then,
Sure.
and
I imagine you and your brother must have been playing together. Well, that's a big assumption, because I have musical brothers too, and we never sat around playing guitars together growing up. So did you and your brother grow up playing together?
In band, like bands in high school.
It's so amazing that you guys are like your rhythm section are brothers. Like that's perfect. Like I was trying to think of that this morning. Are there any other good examples of that? Because like the rhythm section, especially in a rock and roll band, it's the foundation. You guys are like blood relatives. So there's this got to be this magic connection there that most bands wouldn't have.
Right. But they never fight either.
Really?
I don't have a brother, so I don't know that dynamic. I only have a sister.
Yeah.
But I've obviously spent time with friends that had brothers and that fought like cats and dogs.
Sure.
And
As
Brit and
you do.
Richard never fight. Brit said he poked him in the eye with a stick once.
Yeah. I made him eat sand once. But listen, my dad, he made us kiss if we fought, so we never fought. But now we basically recorded some songs immediately, and I sent them to a couple people, and from that we got to where we recorded a record.
Were you guys a three-piece at that point, or has it always been the same collection of guys?
We were kind of a three-piece, and we had a couple of different guys playing second guitar, but it wasn't cemented yet.
Right. How did you hook up with Paul? Because I think that the dynamic between you and Paul is such an important ingredient in your band. Like the way you guys weave around each other, and the way you guys play together, and the way you sing. It's like, that it's. I would think that would take a really long time to get that worked out and comfortable.
Well, I've known him longest. We both lived in a place called LaGrange, Georgia, which is 80 miles or so south of Atlanta, and we were in rival cover bands.
Oh, really?
Well, I hated his band, and he probably hated mine too.
Right.
But he was in a band with his brother, and the thing was, they were doing something pretty different musically than what I was into, but they had incredible vocal harmony, himself and his brother. And so when we started really putting Blackberry Smoke together in earnest, and I knew we couldn't be a three-piece, we needed another guitar player, and especially a harmony singer. He's the first person I thought of.
Right.
And so I called him, but I wasn't sure if it would be what he would want to do, because it was this rootsy music, more of a southern, if you want to call it southern rock thing.
What was his band at the time?
Well, he was more into like Journey, and things like that. Very melodic stuff.
That's where the vocal prowess comes in.
That's where it comes in. And also, he was a lead singer. I wasn't sure if he was interested in coming and being a harmony singer. You know what I mean? But he was, and so he came in, and I think he pretty instantly saw what the job description was.
Right. Had you been a lead singer prior to this band?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that came out of necessity. I dealt with some crazy lead singers that were not very dependable, and
right.
It was like, you know what? Fuck it.
That's a classic rock and roll.
I'll do it. I'll do it.
Yeah.
But that right then, we had played some shows as Blackberry Smoke with another guy who was really good too, but he musically wanted to go somewhere else.
So you guys were a band for a lot of years on a bunch of different labels, sort of before you settled into where you're at now, releasing your records yourself essentially through 30 Tigers. Like, how did that? What was that journey? Like, how did you guys get your first record deal? I mean, we talked about this a little bit yesterday. And it sounds like there were some bumps along the road with some different things. Now.
Boy, it was an adventure.
One of the guys that the three people that I sent demos to was Jesse Dupree from Jackal, the band Jackal. With the chainsaw, and they lived up the street, and they obviously had success, and they had. Kind of on the tail end of all the money and the
Jackal
music
was the chainsaw
business.
band,
right?
Yeah,
right.
That was like at the end.
And John
the end of
Collider
rock.
was like their, champion, and, and he had a lot of pull, and they were exciting and did well. So I was like, well, I want him to hear it. Maybe he can pass it on or whatever. And he was like, man, I'd like to take y'all out on the road. Let's record a record. I got a studio in my house, and so we thought that's convenient.
Right.
And it's easy. And we had kind of, in my mind, before we started this, I was like, let's just do what we can control.
Right.
If we can pay to go in the studio, let's do that. If we can tour, let's do it. Let's not try to get a record deal so we can get somebody to loan us the money for some crazy rate. Let's just get out and do it.
And prior to that, your experience with that the artist that you were talking about, the Buffalo Nickel that had a deal with Universal, was that a good experience in major label land or a bad experience?
It was both. It was an eye-opening experience. My opinion was we saw how you can just hemorrhage money,
right?
And you just, how are you going to pay this back?
Right. Yeah, I mean, this is one of the fascinating things about your guys' band to me is it seems like you almost have like a Blackberry Smoke empire. Like you do, you self-release your records with success. And your whole merch operation, all that stuff. It's really impressive to see.
It came out of necessity because, I mean, I say that we wanted to do what we could control only because there really wasn't anybody super interested in going, hey, let's go give you guys, you're amazing. And
nobody cares, we'll do it ourselves.
Yeah, so it was definitely, that's the way it was. Because people say in interviews like, I really like the way you guys did it, man. You just did it yourself.
Right.
I was like, we had no choice.
Yeah, I'd rather have had somebody else do it for me, but that wasn't an option.
So it kind of built, the whole experience with Universal was, wow, we watched how they just bring a producer in, which was a famous, great guy, that he brings his friends in and they bill you this and this gets billed.
Sure,
and it's like,
sure.
Whoa, man.
Well,
Take
what
some
were
of
all
that
the
money and buy a
what were all the
snapper.
different labels you guys were on, and was there any time during that, bounce around between labels where you felt like you guys were like being creatively pushed into places you didn't want to go or anything like that?
I think we only got with people that liked what we did.
Yeah,
But they-
we made that record with Jesse, which was there was really no label involved at all in that regard. I mean, he just helped us make a record at his studio and then took us on the road, and we played for their fans, and their fans loved us, and it was really a great time. And then
boot camp.
yeah,
Right.
he taught us how to tour. Well, we learned.
Right.
It was trial by fire, but it was like the first tour was 40 days. So we bought a van, bought a trailer. It was like, here we go.
Right.
And then
Learning on the job.
and then we were going to make a second record ourselves in Atlanta with another engineer buddy that we met, and we did. We recorded 22 songs or so, and we were getting ready to do the same thing, release it ourselves. And then Dan Huff, this producer from Nashville, and Justin Niebank, a friend of his, another producer, they came to see some shows, and they were like, let's make a record. And so still no, and I think in the beginning we were going to make demos. We were going to make glorified demos to get some interest from labels in Nashville,
Yeah.
which was foreign to us completely. And those demos became our second record. So the record we made on our own, this is where it gets really complicated. We waited, and I'm talking like 3 years. We're like, we don't know what to do. Should we tell them thank you but no thank you and go ahead and release what we recorded, or should we continue to wait for them? What's going to happen?
God, and
It
3
was-
years, that's like an eternity when you've got
It is.
music
It
in the
took us a
can that you
long
want to
time
get
to
out.
record it too. This guy
Right.
was at the time doing everything in the top 5 on radio. I mean, everything.
Right.
At the same time, Keith Urban, Tim McGraw, all these people, and he'd be going from one studio to the other.
Right.
But that's the way they do it there, and we'd cut 3 songs, or we'd work on some stuff, and then we'd move it over to Dude's house, and then it was like at Blackbird, and it was kind of like
It was piecemeal.
that's how they do
Right.
it,
Yeah.
But
And how were you developing like your fan base through all of that?
Just playing, touring constantly. And we
Were
would
you starting to feel like people coming back to the shows, and was that starting to build?
a little bit, but then. Oh, sorry, Britt.
I was saying it's hard. We felt the effects from touring with Jackal, but they were big in these B markets, like in Wisconsin, like Tomahawk, and these crazy places that were. It was a long drive.
Right.
Yeah.
To start a tour, but we would sell. All of a sudden, we're selling some tickets there, but we couldn't sell 2 in Atlanta.
Right.
Yeah.
You know,
Right.
so we never played there.
Right.
Well,
So when was the point when that started to really bear fruit?
Well, we made that record with Dan and Justin, and we got a little bit of attention for the record, but we were just like, okay, well, it really doesn't feel like the record that we were trying to make, but I mean, it's not bad. It's just this has been a little confusing because it never felt like we were actually making a record.
right.
So around that time, and that record got released 3 times by 3 different independent labels. Also,
Really?
in which we were
Wow.
just.
That's got to be a record.
So we signed so around this time, Zach Brown, who was, we had played some shows with him, done some cruises with him, and
Atlanta local.
all of a sudden he exploded.
Right.
His first single was So he went from they're a bar band like we were to now they're not anymore. Now they're huge.
Right.
He came to us and basically said, I'm going to start a label. Would you guys be on my label? And he already had some friends that he had taken on the road, the Wood Brothers, Levi Lowry, Sonia Lee, that were going to be a part of the label. And we thought it was kind of like Capricorn, like he was building his own modern-day Capricorn in Atlanta. It sounded perfect. And then he said, you know what I want to do? I want to re-release this record. And we were like, no, can we please go make another record?
Right.
It's been
The record
5
that
years.
Won't go away.
So
Yeah.
he didn't know, I mean, he didn't know that wasn't what we should do.
Well, it's kind of what happened to him. He had released Chicken Fried 8 years or 5 years before, and it did nothing.
Oh, really?
Another
Yeah.
band released it, did nothing, and then somebody had a vision, and it was like, I can put this through the goalpost Did I just reference football?
You
Sorry.
did.
Perfect. Love it.
Yeah.
Awful.
Yeah.
But anyway, slam dunk this? No, that's not good either. But so I can bicycle kick this into
Now you're in my wheelhouse, baby.
right now,
Now you're in my wheelhouse.
and you're gonna, you know. So he, you know, that's what he knew then. Like, okay, you know, and when somebody comes to you, when we've been working, we're in a van for 8 years driving ourselves, and we're trying to build this thing in the U.S., which is really, really hard to do. Comes to you and says, "What are your best songs on what you've already put out?" And we were kind of like, we like all of them.
Right.
I mean, what do you? I mean, if there's somebody in charge that says that's a hit for what's going on the radio, bring them forward,
Right.
And we'll be like, sure.
That's funny. You're reminding me of like I'm setting up a record to put out right now, and I've been having all these conversations about what songs to put out in what order, and you know, leading into the release and all that sort of thing. And I keep having very similar conversations.
You're a professional.
I go, look, I know what songs I like the most, but who cares? Like, what I want to hear from you guys. And I also want to hear the logic behind why.
Yeah.
That's the important part. You know what I mean? Like, I'm open to somebody else's ideas. I just want to know why you think that this song is better than that song in this order. What, you know what I mean?
Well, bridge some of that story together. The 3 releases. The one guy that put it out, we loved this guy, and he hung out with the Stones. We were very impressed with him, and he had a cool place in Texas that we played a 4th of July party and jammed with Bobby Key. It was awesome, and he died in his sleep. So then we get involved with another guy. He was a great man. We were just destroyed, you know, and we get involved with another label. This guy goes to prison.
Yeah, this guy I told you about.
No, right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
so it's like, it's not really about, we didn't feel like we exhausted any of their skills that they could do or
Right,
not do. We were
right.
just like, oh, here's another bump. you
So
know?
we when we get together with Zach and his label, and then when it was finally like, okay, no, here's what we want to do. We've got these songs, and this is interesting to me. I'll take this with me to, well, I'll wear it sort of like a badge, but I mean, you know, not. My point is, always trust your own instinct and your hunch, because it's never wrong. And I don't know why it's taken me 44 years to figure this out, but so in making that record with Dan and Justin, I had these songs. I thought these are Blackberry Smoke songs. This is what people are gonna relate to, I think. And a handful of those songs, maybe 6 or 8, and like, no, not that one. No, sorry.
Right.
You know, and that hurts as a songwriter.
Sure.
But I took my lumps and went ahead and did whatever. Making the record with Zach Brown. Or actually, we were making it ourselves. He let us. It was great. He's like, "Here's the keys to the studio. Go,
Southern Ground.
Go,
Nice.
make your record. Make the record you want to make." That was his exact words. It was fantastic.
Yeah.
So we go in and we recorded all those songs that previously I was told, nope, no, this is not, nope. We made the record with those, and that's our fans' favorite record.
Oh,
So
really?
looking back on it now, so to answer your question,
Which record is that?
It's called The Whippoorwill.
Okay, right.
It came out in 2011. So to answer your question, that's when that collection of songs, that's when we were like, okay, now people are listening.
Right.
So
We've found our sound. And
yeah, that's when the ticket
Easier for
sales
us to sell.
started to grow. It's a very organic record. It's just us playing in a room in this church.
Self-produced.
With a couple of guys that are in Zach's band.
Right.
But it was basically like this gang of musicians that we all agreed. I mean, it was the songs go like this. We recorded them like this. That's it. There was no argument over this is not radio friendly.
Right.
This is not a hit. We made a record.
Well,
It was
it's
so simple.
And it's interesting because it's in this era of music where sort of consensus wisdom is guitar music, guitar rock is dead. You know, I noticed that on, doing like Foo Fighter promo stuff. In the last few years, we start getting asked in like every interview, like, what's it like to play irrelevant music, or that sort of thing. I mean, you look around, there's not a lot of people doing this guitar-based drums thing in this sort of classic sounding way.
Yeah.
And I mean, you guys obviously you're like a pure rock and roll band. How have you been able to connect with people in this era when that's so out of vogue, into to the gatekeepers. You know what I mean? Because I'm not talking about to the fans. I mean to the people, the gatekeepers of this industry,
not
don't
really
tend to
dealing
give a
with
shit
them.
about.
They don't. They still don't. They still don't give a shit.
Yeah.
They're not helping us.
Right.
That's what you're asking. I mean, they're trying. I mean, there's obviously they're there to be employed by us in some way to try to do their thing, but it's just they hit the same wall as we would hit if we tried to do it. But it's all about ground roots, touring. And if we went out on the road with Zach Brown and played for 10,000 people a night, when he took us out, you know, several hundred would get it.
Right.
And that was worth it to us because those were 100 to 1,000 people that we weren't playing for when we were just doing a club in that city. So everything that we've done seems to get 20 more people at least, and then they'll tell 20 people.
Right.
I mean, that's really the only sense we can make of it because hard work is what we put in, you know. But we did notice going to Europe, it's a little bit easier.
Right.
Because they think you're somebody.
Right. They love American
you made it over there, so.
rock and roll, you know. It's a different.
Pay attention.
I mean, I don't mean to disparage, you know, American music fans or anything, but there's a fan loyalty that exists in Europe, and a sort of even deeper like appreciation of the arts. I think that exists there.
Absolutely.
That is a very different animal.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, we have friends that are in bands that are trying to do it, that are rock and roll, and we're like, it wasn't easy for us, but it's probably got to be harder for them.
Right.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
now. And they asked like, what did you do? And I was like, well,
We played a punk rock tour.
yeah. But those cruises with Skinner,
and what we did isn't going to work for somebody in 2019 because it's not the same game.
But the thing is, like, YouTube is like a big way people get their information, and I notice a lot, like all those times people filmed us with their big video camera with a VHS tape in it. You know, if they bounce that down 10 years later and put it on YouTube, and it's got us playing Skinner, and somebody's looking at Skinner on YouTube, they see it, and it's kind of like they're all, man, I went down a wormhole. I'm 65. And
was there a point where you guys started to be sort of accepted or celebrated by the sort of veterans of like Southern rock and roll music, like the guys that are still around from Skinner? Or
They've been very gracious.
Right.
We played shows with. We were booked with pretty much all those guys that are still touring, Marshall Tucker and Charlie Daniels and Skinner, and they've always been very gracious, and they sort of, it was like that, you're doing good, kid, you know, that kind of thing.
Right.
But then now 20 years later, it makes sense. Their fans liked what we were doing, because what we were doing is not terribly removed from what they did.
Right, sure.
All those years ago, you know. And we never, I don't think we've ever made a record that's so cartoony, like if there was a quote unquote Southern rock band on The Simpsons. Right. We've never really, you know, like Confederate flag leather vest. But that musical freedom, like, because none of those bands sounded like each other.
Totally.
Like, they were all different. Wet Willie to Blackfoot to the Allman Brothers. And so if we're another little piece of that puzzle, that's great.
Yeah. They were taken from they were taking from a cool pot of music that isn't around now for people like us. I mean, we obviously researched it and loved it, and, you know, but...
Well, what were your guys' like chief musical influences growing up? I heard you know, we talked some guitar shred stuff, so I assume you got some Randy Rhoads and whatnot in your past, but like what were your sort of, what's in your guys' melting pot, you know?
I mean, what radio was playing heavily in Atlanta, 96 Rock, was Skinner. 38 Special was the most commercial thing you could probably hear, you know, but...
Right.
Mother's Finest was huge. We thought they were big all over the world, you know. They were just a fantastic band. It was like this funk, rock, insane...
That's so crazy. I know Wiz, the bass player. Our kids go to school together. We played in parent band.
Atlanta, you know.
They're unbelievable.
Yeah.
That dude, I don't know if you ever met Wiz, the bass player. He is a monster, monster bass player.
And BB was the drummer, and he was from Atlanta, and he plays with Marshall Tucker now, and so we worked at a drum shop together. But all those bands, you know, Atlanta Rhythm Section, that was what was on. And then Midnight Ozzy, you know, I mean, they'd start playing the hard stuff. But that's kind of what we all... I mean, I love Elton John. put that in there in case he's listening.
Yeah, right, because I actually saw him. I went on a day off to the movies one time in Atlanta, and I looked a couple rows back. There was Elton John.
Yeah.
I don't remember what we were watching, but he was in the movie theater. I was like, whoa.
It wasn't a Liberace movie.
No, I don't think so. Could have been.
I grew up south of Atlanta and nowhere, and we didn't have a record store really or anything like that. So I grew up playing bluegrass with my dad.
Oh,
so he was my first influence.
Cool.
Because he played the guitar and sang hillbilly songs, and I thought, well, that's music. I like that. I like everything about that, you know. So he bought a guitar for me when I was about 6 and taught me the cowboy chords. And then I got a buddy in elementary school that had Van Halen's first record.
Oh, there you go.
And it was like, oh, that's cooler. You know?
Well, it's interesting though, because bluegrass, in my mind, is the shred of country.
Totally,
in
it's
a way,
and jazz
I mean,
too.
obviously, country has a lot of shred in it
Yeah.
too. But bluegrass
Same
flat
attitude.
picking
Yeah, it's-
is like high speed, crazy shit.
Yeah.
And it's improvisational music.
Right.
It's all about you gotta be good at it.
Right.
You don't get in the band if you suck.
Right.
Go home and practice.
Right.
But it also, I mean, it's very tempo oriented. A lot of nuances, a lot of dynamics.
Right.
Yeah. Be quiet when you're supposed to be quiet. Get loud when you're supposed to get loud. And also, going back to Paul, vocal harmony is imperative in bluegrass music. So that all, you know what? My mom was really into the Stones and the Beatles and Bob Dylan, and I remember stealing her Hot Rocks cassette, the best of the song.
Compilation.
Yeah.
And I heard, and I was 11 years old, Honky Tonk Women. In my brain, I was like, that's country. That's bluegrass music, that harmony.
Yeah.
It's just got drums and loud guitar. So I remember just thinking, because I'm a nerd when it comes to music, but it was like, I get it.
Yeah.
It's all the same.
Yeah.
Everything's the same.
Well, it's so true. I mean, I really credit that. Like, I kind of came to country music later, like, you know, in my late teens when I first started kind of dabbling and listening to it. But I think like Beatles and Stones records absolutely set the you know, that twang in those early recordings they did. You know, like set me up to like rockabilly, which kind of set me up to like honky tonk. You know, and it's all kind of connected. You know.
Yeah.
How did you? I know we were talking about this earlier in the week, but like Hanoi Rocks and the New York Dolls and
So I mean, I grew up. I had 2 older brothers, right?
Yeah.
And so my older brothers were into like all the stuff you would expect, same stuff: Beatles, Stones, Bowie. You know. Then as things went along, they discovered Kiss and Black Sabbath and Deep Purple. You know, like we went down that road. And then as it became the '80s, you know, heavy metal and all the stuff that all the British stuff and German stuff and all this stuff happened in LA. And I lived pretty close to LA, so like when I was in junior high, I started going down to shows and see Keel and bands like that. You know, I saw all that stuff and in little rooms. It was awesome. And then there was a point there when Hanoi Rocks put out 2 Steps from the Move, which was ultimately their last record. And I started seeing them in Kerrang! Magazine, because we would get Kerrang! Magazine. And for whatever reason, it's the way they looked. I was drawn to it.
beautiful. They were
You know?
beautiful.
Oh, it was amazing. You know, with the smoking jackets and the scarf, the whole thing. You know, super androgynous, and it just struck a chord. And that thing, I remember my brother Scott brought home 2 Steps from the Move.
Yeah.
And this would have been either right before or right after Razzle died, and the whole thing went to shit. You know,
Yeah.
so. He brought that home, and I put it on, and like that record is just such an amazing mix of like, it's not heavy metal to my ear at all. It's this other thing, you know. It's almost like there's elements of like Duran Duran, and like, it just sounds like European,
like new
crazy
wave
shit. You know what I mean? It just hit me in a weird way, and it was like this hard left turn where all of a sudden, Armored Saint and Malice no longer appealed to me.
Yeah.
And this other thing. And
They had the missing thing that they didn't have. Yeah.
And it's funny because there was a couple of cool record stores in town. I remember I went out to the one that was the main one I would go to, and I just go, "What do you have that's glam rock? I'm into glam rock." And I had one record. You know,
Yeah.
I did that Hanoi Rocks record. I mean, I had other records, but I had one glam rock record.
I am into glam rock.
I am now a glam rocker.
Yeah.
And the guy, you know, I was probably,
Do you have your
I think I was
card?
like 13 or whatever. And the guy goes, okay, well, check this out. And he got me this Red Cross record, that Teen Babes from Monsanto covers record they did. and he got me Diamond Dogs by Bowie.
Uh-huh.
I was like, check this out. But at that same time in LA, you had all these bands coming up, Poison, Guns N' Roses, Jet Boy from San Francisco, Faster Pussycat, LA Guns, all the gazillions of bands that we've all forgotten that were kind of in that same wheelhouse. And it was just happening, man.
That was a big movement.
It was a big movement in LA, and you'd go to these shows, and it'd be sold. I saw Poison and GNR. I saw all those bands in little clubs, packed, crazy gigs.
Yeah. Cool.
Before they ever had record deals, and none of that was even a part of it. And it was just seemed like it was the most exciting thing. And it was like at a time in my life where it just hit me like a thunderbolt. Like,
yeah,
that's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And plus, it had that extra super part of the allure that was nobody where I grew up knew about it.
Uh-huh.
It was complete mystery.
You were going in getting drugs from a record store, like behind the counter.
Totally. And you'd come back on a Wednesday morning at school after going to see Faster Pussycat the night before at the Troubadour with one of their t-shirts, and people would go, "What the fuck is that?" You know what I mean? You're just like, "Yeah,
you don't know.
You don't know."
Yeah, you don't know. But it was so that was for me that was but then once I started playing in bands and stuff in high school, so I lived in a relatively small town, and not like super small town, but like you just wound up playing in punk rock bands because that was it was just what was there.
What do you know about Sam I Am, that band? Because
I know those guys well.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
Because I was turned on to them by a friend that works for many bands, and I was like, oh man, this is amazing.
Oh, they had some great songs.
Great hooks and the guitar riff. I mean, I was just like,
Sam I Am.
It was the same thing. How many records do they have out? And then when I heard Foo Fighters, I was like, did they finally get on the radio? I mean, it just seemed to me it had the same cool vibe to it that you would think should be on the radio.
Totally.
It's got hooks,
Yeah, they were one of those bands. Like they made. I remember their first like major label record when they got a record deal. I remember we got an advanced cassette of it. And I was like, this is going to be the biggest thing in the world. That's like one of those ones where, I don't know. There's probably one of those stories about, like the guy who signed us got fired. It's probably one of those kind of things because they made some great records.
I agree. And I thought, wow, this should be out there like everything else that's
totally,
out there.
Totally.
Why not,
Yeah. Them, Jawbreaker. There was a lot of those bands that should have been.
But we would never really
bigger,
hear about them unless somebody,
Right. Yeah.
brought it along.
So I think Sam I Am maybe still does shows here and there. I'm not sure. I haven't talked to Sergi in a while. I knew Sergi, the guitar player, the best.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I knew they were from that area, probably.
Yeah. Well, that was all Bay Area stuff. I mean, I moved up there later. I'm like, when I was like 18 or so, I moved to LA, lived there for a while. Then I moved up to San Francisco, and all that stuff was kind of going on. Yeah.
Man, I had a couple of friends in high school that got into, they were into the Replacements and Husker Du and and then one friend he was the Clash guy. Yeah. And so I was really into rock and roll, just Led Zeppelin and Black Sabbath and the Stones and the Faces and then I got into that, and especially the Replacements. Yeah. They were like the Faces of the 80s.
Totally.
So,
they were the faces of the punk rock world.
Yeah. But I was like, okay, and then of course the speed metal stuff, that was, as a guitar player, we all got into that. Yeah. If you could, and then I was like, I can't really play this, but I like it, But then later, in the last 5 years, on the road traveling, our guitar tech, Doc, used to work for Bad Brains. Ah. And so one day we were sitting, and I was sitting with Brit, and Brit's very versed in hardcore. And I was like, what Bad Brains record should I get? And he's like, the first one. So I get it. So anyway, point of the story is, and then we met Brian Baker from Minor Threat and Junkyard, and I bought the Minor Threat, the first two, the records that are on one, And I go home, and my wife is way more versed in this stuff than I am. But she's, we're 44 years old. So I get the first Bad Brains vinyl, and I go in. It's like a Sunday.
Babe, I'm going punk.
It's like a Sunday morning at 8 a.m.
The furniture.
And I put it on, and all of a sudden I see her head come around the kitchen door like, what the fuck are you doing? What are you doing?
I love it. Yeah, that's great.
So, my midlife crisis is punk rock based.
Nice. Well, there's that. We're gonna look for that funny haircut coming soon.
Yeah. I'm working up the nerve.
Yeah, it's funny, man. Like with my relationship to punk rock, like I said, I grew up like a hard rock, heavy metal dude. You know, like punk rock was not in my family's wheelhouse. Like I remember my oldest brother Mike in the late '70s bought, just out of curiosity, the first Clash record and the Sex Pistols record.
Yeah,
it probably would have been 1979 when you were, you know, starting to maybe see the odd punk rock guy walk down the street like, whoa, what the fuck is that? And I remember listening to it and just like the judgment was, this sucks. And so, you know, because so much of like rock fandom was based on like guitar solos and chops and all that stuff.
Like muscular.
Yes. And
that to me, I did the same thing. I was into hardcore and I listened to metal and I listened to some punk and I was like, that sounds like it's not plugged in all the way. Or
right, yeah. It was funny. So like when I got turned on to a lot of that stuff in the maybe like end of junior high, beginning of high school, it all seemed like that was this cool thing that all of a sudden it appealed to me, you know, instead of getting turned on like whatever, Black Flag or Socially or something. And it was like something that had already happened. It was a few years ago. I missed it. It was a cool scene.
But now I love it.
It's in the rear view mirror. Dang, missed it, you know, kind of thing. And then I was into like, you know, I remember getting turned on to the same kind of stuff. Replacements. I mean, Replacements were still going, but Replacements and the Clash was a big one for me, and all the early British stuff, you know, the Damned and the Jam, all that stuff. But that seemed even further. You know, that was like fucking 1977 or 78 or what. You know, that seemed like just a lifetime ago that I completely missed. And even some of my early like punk rock shows that I went to were like bands already on their reunion tours. You know, like Stiff Little Fingers on their second reunion tour or some shit like that. You know, and it really wasn't until like Bad Religion stuff in the late '80s and NoFX around that same time, and Pennywise and all those bands started happening, that I was actually kind of like in step with it, you know, like listening to it in real time, where it didn't seem like this thing in the rear view mirror, you know. It's weird how that works.
Definitely. Fuck punk rock, right?
God damn. Just let us in. We'll get the Mohawks, man. What was I gonna say? How long have you been out on tour right now behind your last release? And do you guys is your touring schedule tied to album releases, or are you just in kind of a 24/7 tour cycle?
Yeah, we don't really. We're always touring, so we just will change the name of the tour for whichever record just came out, you know.
Right.
And it's been that way for a lot of years, and we've got a nice little system where we take December and January off. Well, not even those entire months now, but some time for the holidays. And but it becomes a tough thing. I mean, because that's our living. Obviously, nobody makes money selling records anymore, but playing shows and people are coming, you know, but you get a little scared, like, well, are we playing too much, or, you know, should we take a break here? Or,
right. Do you tour all over the world? Like, do you guys kind of map it out so that you're not in any one place?
Well, we're trying to do that. I mean, it's an art, you know.
Right. Yeah. Sure.
I mean, just like our West Coast run is very dartboard, but routing is a hard thing to do. Availability of venues. It's just you know, it's not like people, you know, our fans are like, why are y'all going up to San Francisco and you're down there? And they're like, well,
I bet they don't sound like that. I bet our California bands don't sound like that.
Well, you never know. You know, it's funny. I saw you post something the other day on Instagram or something. It was like some tour dates, and it said something to the effect of like, now would be a good time to chime in about all the places that you think we should go or that we're not going, or something like that. And that cracked me up so hard, because that is every time I post tour dates. 90% of the comments are like, why are you coming to Raleigh?
Yeah.
Why aren't you coming to, you know, Halifax, man?
You hate Florida. He hates Florida.
I'm like,
why do y'all hate Florida? We're here right now.
Yeah.
You're like, you realize that there's, you know, it's a bigger thing than that, planning these things.
We can't please. But you know what? You know, you can't. We're also playing all the time. So how can these people be so mad that we're never there? We're
right. Yeah, come sometime.
Yeah.
So okay. So what's your next thing? You're going to do the acoustic tour. You've got an acoustic. Is the acoustic EP out now?
It is.
And then you're going out to tour that.
And that was a fluke, really. We went to years ago on the Whippoorwill album. We went into Southern Ground Studios, Zach Brown's studio, because it looks great and it sounds great, but to get video footage. So we just sat in a circle and played some acoustic versions of songs. And that's what we did this time too, just for some, it's promo stuff.
Yeah.
Because when you make a record, you do some promo stuff to go
You
along
need
with
content, kids. Come
That's
on,
it.
it's all about content.
It was all about content. And it was for video content, first and foremost.
Film.
But the audio wound up really being nice.
Right.
We were like, wow, this sounds great.
Yeah.
Maybe we should make it an accompaniment, Because we have some fans who are like, why don't y'all do that more often? We play acoustic stuff. You should do acoustic shows. You should make an acoustic record. All of that. But we were like, hey, well, this makes sense. It's good. And I wish we could make every record like that. It took 4 hours.
Yeah.
And no overdubs. It's playing.
Yeah. Is that something the whole band comes out for the tour?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, and we'll bring a couple friends to play some auxiliary instruments and whatnot.
Nice.
And we've never done we've never played, we've never done an acoustic tour before. So this will be a first.
My brother's band, Face to Face, just recently did an acoustic record and has been doing a lot of shows. So I'm just saying, you could fuse that whole classic rock, punk rock thing together.
Yeah.
Right there, guys.
Just give me the guitar.
That's
Face to
right.
face.
Boom. Yeah. Look that shit up. There you go. Well, thanks for doing this on a show day, man. I appreciate
man,
it. That's
thank
great.
you.
You guys are great.
It's your show day too.
That's true. That's true. We're all consummate professionals.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you.
But
Thank
why don't
you.
play Argentina?
Exactly. No, the big one for me is come to Brazil.
Come to Brazil.
That's
but when you
every
put Brazil-
every post.
They say come to Argentina.
Exactly. Come to Brazil.
Yeah, this one horse town.
All right, that was Charlie and Brit from Blackberry Smoke on Walking the Floor. Make sure you get on over to walkingthefloor.com. I'm going to put up some links so you can check them out, see what they're doing, buy their t-shirts, buy their tickets. I think they're on an acoustic tour right now, so make sure you go check that out. It's coming to a town near you soon. Come to Brazil. Anyway, this is Chris Shiflett signing off. Don't forget to get on over to my other website, Chris Shiflett Music. Buy a bundle, pre-order my new record, get yourself a handkerchief. It's going to be great. You can also pre-order it on the iTunes store and Amazon. So do it today. And if you're out in Scandinavia, come see me in Oslo, Copenhagen, or Stockholm. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, signing out. See you in a week. Adios, amigos.